Hi, are you sick and tired of paying hundreds of dollars a month for cable or dish? GNR TV is your answer. These guys have an incredible 100% legal product that is a cord cutter's dream. For as low as $25 a month, you will get over 400 HD channels, including all major sports packages, pay per views, premium movies, and entertainment. To get started, all you need is a streaming device, such as an Amazon Fire Stick, internet, and a desire to save a ton of cash. No contracts, no credit checks, no hidden fees. I myself have been a subscriber, and I must say this service is amazing. To learn more, search GNR TV on Facebook or Instagram, and I will also be posting a link on my pages to check out on my podcast website. Lastly, for first-time subscribers, use promo code SIR30 to save $5 for your first month. GNR TV, streaming done right.
Let's get slicing and dicing with Sir Sturdy horror fans. On this podcast, you will hear me and a guest do some movie reviews, random funny horror chats, and whatever else comes to mind. So tune in, kick back, relax, and always remember, I'll see you in your nightmares.
Well, just Jason's mask.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Another awesome, exciting episode of Horror with Sir Sturdy. Today I got Mike with me. Mike, man, how's it going?
Hello, and hello.
How you doing, man?
So far, so good. Still surviving. Just a big old storm that just happened earlier, not too long ago. Finally stopped, and I'm still alive. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, that's always good, man. So before we start talking more horror like we just were, why don't you tell everybody about your YouTube channel?
I host and own a show called The Movie Raid, a.k.a. The Movie Raid Show, which is an all-genre film-based show which has many film artists, pre-recorded phone interviews with every film artist from every type of genre, every type of background, from stuntman, from director, from producer, actor, and so forth. And it is currently on YouTube and Vimeo. That's Vimeo.com. And then, of course, YouTube, which you just simply type The Movie Raid, all one word. You'll find a movie called The Raid, of course, or The Raid 2. But just type all out on one word, The Movie Raid, and you'll find my logo up there. Click on it. And if you happen to like what you hear, do hit subscribe. And every bit of support truly helps as well. And check this guy's stuff too.
I've heard, I listened to quite a few of your interviews. I believe it was last week. Whatever day I told you I was going to do it, that following day I ended up doing it. I was listening to them at work over on YouTube, and you have some really good interviews, and then you get a lot of people on there, like some big names on there, and I'm like, this is so freaking cool. How does that come about? As far, I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
Well, okay, it's sorry. It's kind of allergy season, but I'm going to shorten it down. It's actually a little bit of a long history, but really, it's really not that much of an interest in history. But basically, this show was actually on a syndicated radio show, podcast show, a long time ago, based in California, online, of course. And we just couldn't find an actual, because on that show, we couldn't find a spot to really fit it. And I used to book musicians and film artists on that person's show at that time, from 2006 to 2010. And in the course of that, my show was actually bounced onto another station that was based out of Florida, which is actually, at that time, was an all-male station, but also placed that an added show to that. But unfortunately, the owner got rid of the station and everything along with it, and basically my show was out alone. So I took that show to my own, and I, since then, just kept going with it, and I didn't want the show to die alone, and I'm going to keep it strong, and this is to educate everybody that wants to know what the film industry is. You can listen to these artists so that you get a general idea of what this is, and how can you, be more prepared and expect in this type of realm, especially today. Especially if you're already doing a short or whatever, it's best to listen to these guys that have quite a bit of experience, so that you can really understand that this is not a fantasy. This is not a get-rich type of plan. This is not definitely not a way for you to just get your project out there and you think you're going to make it big or whatever for recognition. You're not, because it's not easy, man. It's not going to happen right away, and that's the sad thing. But at least you'll be prepared for it. So the show itself is it's all genre based, everything in channel about film, and that's the beauty part of it. It's all variety about that, and I've been doing this probably, I guess, technically 12 years in terms of interviewing, and but man, it's been a blast, man. There's just tons of people out there that I love talking to film-wise, and including even movie-wise. I can talk film all day, dude, and that's the best part, because when you have like-minded people and everybody the same common interest, man, nothing but positivity all around, and that's what makes everything go, so smooth in this aspect. So this show, it's very dear to me, and I invite every artist in the world to come on the show and discuss film and discuss their experiences of how it feels and how it makes them feel and their experience in these kinds of situations. Even at the harsh times, it's more sensitive matters that's going on in film right now.
I'm with you on that, man. Like, it's like you said, as far as the money thing goes, if you're trying to do this to make a bunch of money, don't do that. It's from the podcasting perspective, it's so freaking fun. It's so rewarding just to get other fans for me in general, like you getting other fans of horror just to discuss this genre and have a great time with it, getting some stars from these movies on here and just having a good time, kicking back and talking for a little while. And it's just
oh man, yeah, definitely.
It's I don't know, man. It's one of those things where, I mean, obviously, if someone was like, "Hey, look, we want your show on our network or whatever, and we'll pay you this," you're gonna do it. You're gonna make sure, look, I have 100% of my rights, but you're gonna do it. But I mean, at the same time, this is just a hobby for me, and if I had to keep doing this as just a hobby and never made money off it, I'd be happy. I'd be a lot happier if I made money off it. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say no to money. Who would? But at the same time, it's just such a fun passion. I never looked into this to make money and to get rich or whatever. I just looked into this as, hey, look, you know what? I want to do a horror podcast. I have a horror Facebook page. I just want to have some fun with this and see where it goes. And I'm having so much fun with this. Like, I got to be on a panel last October, the con I was telling you about, the Scare Con where I met Ken Sagos. I got to be on a panel with the cast from Friday the 13th Part 7, which was awesome. I was also on a few other panels with just other horror podcasters. I did one with me and a couple of my friends, and it was just so cool. And like with this con, they love the podcasters to come there, and they'll give the podcasters a free table, 2 media passes, and 2 chairs. Now, if I want extra media passes, which I did grab, I had to grab one for my brother. And, you pay for that, which is fine. You pay for the power for your table, which is fine. But still, just to get that opportunity. And then this past June, I couldn't make it out to the con, but they had podcast awards at this same con, which I was nominated for, I believe, 2. Didn't win them, but it was just honored just to be nominated for something like that. I think that's so awesome and so rewarding. And I'm not going to say it makes me want to drive harder or drive more, because I'm not doing this for recognition. Yeah, I want more people to listen to my podcast. Yeah, I want more people to come on the podcast, but I'm not doing it to, like, I don't know. I'm just doing it to have fun at the end of the day. Again, whatever else comes with it is just an added bonus.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows out there that, that gain for the numbers and try to get the top guests on the show and stuff like that. And if it works for you, that's great. And whatever it is that you do for your show, I think that's awesome. If it works for you, it works for you. I'm not the type that's going to, spread anything around or anything like that. I don't continue to, like I said, I don't scope out other shows and I don't like that. It's like, no, in my opinion, we need to support each other. Mm-hmm. We need to get out there and show the world that there's a lot other different kinds of entertainment aside from just, getting that fame, trying to get paid and all that stuff. And my opinion is respect is earned and not for paid advertisements.
Oh, I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that. So who are a lot of the people that you interviewed? Have you ever met any of them in person?
No, I have not. Believe it or not, it's like some. Believe it or not, some of the people I've actually met in reality were actually athletes, like in WWE wrestling.
Oh no, that's cool too, though. That's cool too, man.
But I was like really young at that time. I think it's kind of funny though that it's with wrestlers at that time and all these actors that has been on the show. It's like unfortunately I'm in this state, like, or at least in my area, I don't have like cons and stuff that I would love to go and check out, and I would love to talk to a lot of horror fans out there and any moviegoers and stuff. I would love to, but there is a convention here, but it's not the kind of convention that you can just actually have a full-on con. I mean, sure, they can get an event set up there, but chances are it might not be as popular. But it'd be great for me because it's like literally like 10 to 15 minutes from my house. I'm like, I would love to go there, and I would love to meet everybody. And you know, it's just the atmosphere, man. That's the best thing. Is you can feel all that positivity, even. You know, when you're just talking to someone that's in the movies, you can just generate the same kind of positivity bouncing back and forth, and you know, it's always a blast, dude.
Oh, I agree 1,000,000%. It's like a different atmosphere when you're in those cons and stuff with all the other horror fans, and it's like you could just walk up. Like there's been plenty of times where I'll be in line waiting to get an autograph or whatever, and there's a fan in front of me, fan behind me. Hey, have you ever seen such and such a movie? We're 9 times out of 10. Well, not 9 times out of 10. There's a few times I'll say we're not even talking about the movie of the person we're going to get the autograph of. We're just talking about random horror movies in general. And it's just so cool how everybody just like with those cons. I'm sure it's with every con, but with the horror cons, everybody's there. I feel everybody that's there is really a horror fan versus like Comic Cons. I'm not gonna say all Comic Cons. I'm not gonna say all people, but I've been to a few Comic Cons. And sometimes I feel like the boyfriend drags his girlfriend there just to come to the con with him. But I feel like a horror convention is completely different atmosphere, completely different story as far as that goes. Like everybody that's there wants to be there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's a really good, in a way, it's kind of a self-therapeutic thing. When I say by that is the fact that here you go into an environment that you know for a fact that you're going to be accepted, you're going to be liked. No one's going to judge you for what type of movie you like, what kind of background of movies that you were growing up with. No, even if you were cosplaying, no one's going to judge you. No one's going to make an opinion about you. Everyone is just having a good time talking movies throughout the entire day, meeting great people, and this is the kind of almost. It's like getting a breath of fresh air. It's like when your whole life is all crazy up, work, kids, whatever that you're going through, and you go to these types of events, you can unwind, forget about everything, and just simply just sit and talk. And it's like a really fun AA meeting.
Something like that. But you're getting your fix though. At this.
Yeah, you get your fix on, man. You get your fix on, and it's a truly it's a great positive thing for everybody, and there's a big difference between that and then when you're meeting people outside of that. Like you go to town and you're just randomly talking about a movie. It's like, hey, have you seen Dawn of the Dead? And you go, or an actor from Dawn of the Dead. It's like, is that the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, it's horror is such a funny, crazy, weird genre as far as like, I'll say as far as the fans go. Because it's the most violent genre out of all of them, by far. And as far as the fans go, for the most part, they're like the friendliest people in the world. And if you're outside of that genre, you feel like, really? What? These guys are that friendly? They're watching all these crazy movies and about killing and this, that, and the third, and they're that. Like, yeah, it's it's just how we are, I guess. It's
Well, it's about, in my opinion, it's about like having to just let loose. And when you meet people like who are in such very gory, let's say 60s horror films and so forth, you meet them and you're like, they're really cool guys. But it's just something that's like I said, it's almost a therapeutic thing. It's okay. This is where people say it's okay to be different because no one is going to say anything different about you. Because you go to a public supermarket or something. Let's say you're wearing a Slayer shirt, but you have a day job at like let's say delivering pizza or something, and you're not that you've done nothing in your life that's bad. But the thing is, someone else that you're looking at has a different identity for you, and until you talk to them and like, oh, whoa, I didn't know you were into golf or something, and here you are wearing a Slayer shirt and like a Jason Voorhees baseball cap on and stuff, and if people will learn to accept what they are in terms of based on what movies they like, you can make a lot of best friends, man.
Oh yeah, man. I've made so many connections and networked with so many people just from this podcast and my horror pages, and it's so like I said before, it's so fun. Like I don't do it again. I don't do it to try to make money. I just do it because it's fun. I have a passion for it, and I want to keep doing this. Like I don't ever want to stop doing this. I don't ever want it to feel like a job, which I don't think it ever will. But I don't ever want to stop having so much fun. Like it's just so fun to just sit here and talk about horror all day and watch these horror. It gives you another thing about this for me is like it gives me another reason to watch horror movies because it's like okay, well I have a podcast now, and if I have a guest on and they choose the movie, I have to watch this movie so we can break it down and review it. No matter how far into detail we do it, I still have to break it down and we'd have to break it down and do what we got to do with it. And it's fun. It's funny. It's I don't know. It's just so great. It's so great.
But it's also a little bit of a cautious thing to do. When you're doing this and you love doing it, that's the best part. Motivation is to, if you love doing it, keep doing it. If you think that you're kind of doubting yourself, don't doubt yourself. Don't ever doubt yourself. Because if you doubt yourself, then that means you're stopping yourself from doing what you love doing. And if you're doing that, then maybe you should probably just reconsider of trying something else within the area that you love doing. And as far as treating it like a job, that's another thing you got to be careful about. Because if this happens to be, let's say people want to buy the show, I mean, actually come up to you and say, hey, we want to do with this show and or at least invite you onto our local network or something like that, then you're going to have to put your foot forward and say, this is my show, this is what I do, and I understand your terms, but you're going to have to fight for that, because if you let that go, you let someone take it, you've basically let everything that you ever stood for go away. You gave it to them, and I understand that people need to live. We need to live off this money and stuff, but passion is you can't beat that passion, man. Because if you, like I said, don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever think that you can't do it. You can do it, man. You can get this out there. It doesn't matter how small a podcast show. Doesn't matter. Even if you have a small band. Over time, every time you mention a word to somebody, someone else is going to say something else. Someone else is going to say something else. But it's going to like snowball, man. Over time, it will become the way you want it to be. Because I'm a firm believer that if you're an artist, especially in this kind of art as well, the artist can choose whatever they want of the creativity of their art. If it's a crap thing, it's a crap thing. If it's something beautiful, it's something beautiful to them. But to the person that's judging it, honestly, they don't have a big say in this, because this is what they created. You can only see what's in front of you. You can't control the outcome of that. They can control the outcome. If they say it's crap, it's crap. If you say it's crap, well, that's really just an open opinion.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and I really don't like. I'm the type of person I don't go by what others say as far as my show and stuff goes. Yeah, it's good to get the good feedback, which I do get a lot of good feedback, which is great. But I don't do I do it for me. I do it to have fun. I do it. I welcome a lot of people on here and all that stuff too. Like I do it just to. It's fun, man. You know how it is. You record, you do your interviews and stuff, and you have a great time doing it. I can tell you have a passion for it. I can tell by the way you interview. You're not doing it just to like, okay, let me just do this just to do it. No, it's like I'm doing this because it's freaking fun. I'm doing this because I have a great time doing this. I have a passion for it, and I'm good at it. You know, it's another
And,
hobby.
and it can be a lucrative career, man. It's you could be doing this for 15 years for fun, but at some point, someone from an actual organization. And the thing is, don't wait for it. Don't wait for that big thing to happen. You just let it roll, man. And if somebody from a network or somebody in general from an organization, takes notice, that I think that's a really awesome thing. But really, the big satisfaction in all of this is when fans of movies or even the artists themselves tell you straightforward of how much they like your show or anything else that you're involved with. Dude, that is like the best reward. That's better than money. That having that kind of praise, for a genuine praise from somebody that you don't know, that's not your friend, that's not your friend's friend or a relative or anything. Because in my opinion, that doesn't really count. I mean, that's great, but it doesn't really feel that you're getting that kind of appreciation for what you do. Because in a way, you're contributing to the entertainment industry, and you're contributing your own way of how you want to get this out there and show what you can do in terms of the film community, because we need more genuine people like that, and to get this out there and not just make it such a mainstream, such a just purely entertainment basis. Point A, point B, done, and then let's see how many numbers we get out of this. And but to me, satisfaction is when fans love it, and if artists really enjoy it, is when you get that positive comment, just one, man. Yeah, you be on top of the world, man. You be on top of the world. That's the biggest satisfaction. That's the best fame. If you want to use the term fame, that's the best fame you could ever get, man. And you don't need money to earn that kind of stuff.
I agree, man. And what's funny. I know you did mention it's not the same when family and friends like it, which it is. And I got a quick story actually. So my stepdaughter, one of her friends, I just found this out about a week ago, and then I was asking her friend about it yesterday too. But one of her friends had been listening to my podcast for like the past 6 months, and what got her to check it out. I think that was the first podcast she's ever listened to, and what got her to check it out was she seen my wife and my stepdaughter like posted in my horror group, and so she would see the podcast thing in there and just went and listened to it and has been listening to it ever since. And I also went and checked out other podcasts, which is cool. But the funny thing about it is, like, she never put two and two together that it was my podcast until, like, again, until recently. This was, like, until, like, a week ago. I don't know if my stepdaughter told her or what. I believe she did. And she was just like, she was like, that's so cool. Like, I was, like, you guys, she'll bring her son over sometimes. And she's like, you guys babysit my son and all this cool stuff. And I didn't even know that this was his podcast. So I'm like, yeah, and for me, it's rewarding and it's cool because it's like, I never like told her about the podcast, and you know what I mean. It's just you've heard about it by looking at the page and just became a fan of it, not because of who I am, because because you're good friends with my stepdaughter, but because you really enjoy the show. And then I've had other people just randomly send me messages or email. Well, I'll post in groups like, hey, anybody that wants to come on the podcast, it's a horror fan, come on the podcast, this, that, and the third. But then I'll have people just message me like, hey, I heard your podcast, not even seeing the my invites to the podcast and all that with my email and all that, just like hearing it like, hey, I heard about your podcast, I heard you like independent horror movies, I would like for you to check out my movie, or I would love to put it on the come on the podcast and promote it and this, that, and the third. And that to me is awesome, because I'm like, I'm just trying to make a little noise with this podcast and have some fun. And when that kind of stuff happens, where it's just like random people from all over just again shooting you emails, this, that, and the third, checking out your page, checking out your podcast and enjoying it, I'm like, yes, that's I'm not going to say that's the reason why I do the podcast, but it definitely helps. It definitely makes me work that much harder and have, just try that much harder, I should say, with getting the show, going out there, having a good time with the show and all that. And it's rewarding. So to everybody out there that listens to my show, to everybody out there that's ever been on my show and that's going to come on my show in the future, I got to say thank you to all of you guys, because it's really rewarding, humbling, and it drives me in a sense, because I have so much freaking fun with it. It's the best.
Yeah, and the problem is, the thing is, like with other companies, like if you were to present your show to other radio stations or much because, oh, yeah, he's a small person, is this and that. So and that's the kind of thing you kind of want to stay away from. I mean, it's not really something you want to drive toward to. If you stay where you're at, the fact is when people are already sending you, like, so I'm posting messages on Facebook and stuff and saying how much you like your show and stuff like that, stick with that because it's genuine. It's something that where passion is really the strongest because once you get more recognition toward, well, it's not exactly recognition toward other companies because they're just doing it for, okay, what's marketable here? Let's see what this goes. No, it's not the right time for this. It's no different when movie studios are doing the same thing with movies. If it's the right time or if it's, like if they decide, oh, it's a good time to make a remake or this or that, or because if they're going to continue to watch it, and we're going to continue to keep making the stuff, and that's not how it is with some of these shows, like myself and as well as your show. It's not like let's say this is good. I'm going to put this out here, and especially the tragedy card, which I call in this case, where someone is going to be pulling some dirt off an artist or talk about a lawsuit or try to get more information about a lawsuit on an artist and stuff like that. And that's what I mean about, really going the wrong way of things, having to gain that recognition for everything. And it's a terrible thing to do. And I understand what it is, but it's a really terrible thing to do. It makes you look bad because it's none of your business, man. It's none of our business. It's between the artist and whatever it is that's going on in their life. If they had a bad marriage or whatever, they got pulled over drunk driving, or maybe had an incident on set with a director or something, that really heated type of moment, don't bring that crap up. That's the kind of thing you don't want to have that kind of reputation, man. And reputation, yes, it is important, but at the same time, you shouldn't really rely too much about it. Just keep focusing on what you love doing. Keep focusing on how can you make your. Here's what I say about this: don't focus on how to be the best of whatever it is that you're doing. Focus how can you be the best of yourself. How can you be the best of what you do to show the world, to show other people of what you do. If you build Lego houses and then you end up making Lego towns, okay, great. Show the world that you can do this. Show the world that you can bring art to such a new, extensive life and bring that out there. It's the same thing with these shows, man. Show us, we want to show you that there's so much out there, so many great talent out there in terms of film, so many awesome movies that are coming out, from fan films to independent films. Like the variety is endless, guys, and this is something that we don't get paid for. I don't get paid for this, man. And the fact is that when you have this dedication, the passion, again, like I said, I know I said this a couple times, but that is such an important thing. I see this that it's kind of losing in some places in the entertainment industry like that, and I don't put myself into this kind of category, even though it's kind of labeled that way. But it's my show. It's kind of more undergroundish in a way. But that's the kind of thing when it comes to that kind of aspect of things. It can change even a podcaster's way of thinking in terms of getting their show out there, in terms of getting other artists on the show or whatever it is that they're doing. You can change it because now you're going to eventually get a big head, big ego, and then, if it works for you, okay, cool, that's fine. But like I said, respect is more likely earned than anything else, especially from moviegoers. I say this from artists or podcasts or whatever, prove that you can do this. Prove that you can show the world what you're made out of. Same thing with bands, man. Prove that you can show your art. Display your art the way you want to. And then again, the pass and the drive, that's where it's at. Don't focus on the whole fame and being recognized as in the list of all the greatest artists. That's just a little reward, man. Rewards will come by as you go, no matter what you do, man. I think we can all succeed. It's a win-win. No one should be hating each other on anything. You can express your opinion about anything, but please, man, this is something that we should all support each other in, no matter what it is, from film, to sports and so forth. And we can all benefit from success on everything. There is no can't.
I agree. I definitely agree with that, man. And it's just, I gotta thank you for coming on too, man. This is fun. It's a good conversation we're having right now. And
I know, I just got off drugs.
like I told you before we started recording, I was like, this, it's a random. We get real random on this podcast, and shooting out some gems is always a good thing. But I'm gonna ask you. So my first question. Well, I don't know if it's my first question, but I have a question, two-parter question for you. It is, who or what got you into horror, and what's the first movie you remember that scared you as a child?
What got me into horror, man? I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know how I even ended up enjoying horror. Like I was a kid, I vaguely remember many things, but I definitely remember Child's Play scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Child's Play, okay.
I was watching it. You know what? There's a scene where he was going into that guy's house and turning the oven on and stuff. I'm like, oh no! He's like, he had his knife and stuff on, and I'm like, man. That scared the crap out of me. But over time, I started to enjoy it. Like, from especially zombie films. I absolutely love zombie films, and I'm a big fan of zombification of how of the zombies move, how they react, and so forth. But in terms of like horror as a whole, man, it's a fascinating thing because from it brings so much out of you. It's not just from fear. It's like makes you think about a lot of things. That from what could happen in your own house to what could happen in reality, and
Yeah.
and it definitely sells you the point of what it's doing, regardless if it's a killer doll or a killer ghost or whatever entity that you're coming across.
That's true. That's true, man. And it's for me, it's what got me into it, as far as I can remember, is I have older brothers and older cousins, and my one older brother, and my older cousins, they were into horror when they were kids. They're old, like I said, they're a few years older than me. So, me being the youngest one at the time, I'd always want to do what the older guys are doing, what the older kids are doing, and I would follow them around and stuff. And when it came time to watching horror movies, they would let me watch them, but I couldn't. There's no crying, no waking my whoever's house we were at, no waking that mother up, my mother or our aunt up or whoever, and trying to sleep in the bed. It's like, look, you know, if you have to sleep with a light on, it's whatever, but don't be waking them up and getting us in trouble because we let you watch this movie. And it started from there, like I said, because you always want to do what they're doing. And like the first movie that I remember, I'm not necessarily sure if it's the first movie that scared me. But the first movie I remember that scared me was Creep Show Part Two, The Hitchhiker, and the whole "Thanks for the ride, lady," all that stuff. I don't know what it was about that scared me, but that got to me as a kid. And your mind just races as a kid. Your imagination goes wild, and I was at the point, man, where I was so freaking scared that like when the movie was over, I had to have that one of them. I don't remember which one it was because it probably happened multiple times. Walk me to the bathroom to use the bathroom. Wait outside the bathroom for me, and then once I'm done in there, go back and watch another horror movie or finish that movie. Like I was that into it, and just drove from there to watching it with my one brother lives out in Colorado now, and like with my younger brother and my younger cousins, like we just all came up together watching horror movies back in the days where you can go to like Blockbuster, Super Video, Screen Gems, any any of those names, rent a movie. And it was always we can rent 1 to 2 movies maybe, or a movie in a game, and we'd always get 1 to 2 movies, or maybe 2 movies in a game. I forgot what it was exactly, but we'd always get a movie or two in a game, and it would always be horror, and it just grew from there to pretty much where it is now. And I still have I have a bigger passion for it now because I understand it a lot more now, but I still have that love, and I still have those memories of when I was a kid, like watching. Jason's my favorite slasher of all time. I remember back as a kid, it would always come on the USA Network. Of course, it cuts out all the good scenes, but every Friday the 13th, that movie's on for that whole weekend, and I'm watching that every single time I can. I'm right in front of the TV watching it, and that just got me hooked even more. That's probably what made slashers my favorite genre because I was so used to seeing them because that's like what was out back then. Now there's so many more types of there's so many more types of horror movies, and it grew from there. And now I have a freaking podcast for it, which is something. I have a podcast, a YouTube page, Facebook group, and all that stuff for it. And it makes my passion even stronger for it because now I'm like, now I have a legitimate reason to watch these crazy ass horror movies because I get to discuss them with other fans on my podcast.
Yeah, and the fact is, horror and every genre has become such a significant part of our lives in so many ways. And the thing is, when horror is when especially as someone that's not really into horror or even that kind of film, you mentioned the word horror. Other people will instantly think that, oh, well, okay, that's violence, that's gore, that's this and that, and that leads to behavior of criminals and serial killers. No, not necessarily. It's the fact is that it's almost like if you were playing video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever video games you want to play, you want to unwind, you wanted to be immersed in the story, you want to be a part of that, you want to find out what's going to happen next, or where's it going to take you. And with horror is such an awesome. I think it's more powerful than anything else because here it is. You're almost like rediscovering some things about yourself when you're watching these horror films. Like, oh my god, I didn't know I'd be so scared over a cat wearing a pink tutu that has fangs.
Mm-hmm. I'd watch that.
I'd still watch it. I'm open to every film, man. And that's the thing when you're, especially today's marketing, so to speak, on horror films. Yeah, of course, there's the remake thing, there's the reboot thing, there's just rehashing the same thing over and over. But the thing is, if you're going to go watch it, they're going to keep making it. But the thing is, when you're watching all these awesome films, you get that instant memory of that original film, the original Pet Sematary. You may not agree with the story and some of the plots and stuff like that with it, but the fact is, it's that memory that is the most important thing. You remember what happened. It's like The Exorcist. Holy crap, was that like really over the line type of, in terms of cinema, in terms of the public. They really freaked the crap out of everybody at that time. Really messed with somebody's head, and that's where horror does its job. It's supposed to scare the crap out of you. It's supposed to get more out of you from your own self than anything else, and I think it's really fantastic. It's really it's almost like a science experiment with horror films. You see how people react, and let's say the most normal person in the world is watching a horror film, and they get some kind of a general interest. Let's say they're watching, Cabin in the Woods. It's comical and horror, and then they get into Scary Movie, which is more comical and does have horror. And then they get into more of the comical and stuff like that. And then you're generating more interest. Now you're interested in something that you like horror, but you're veering off into a mixture of the same type of genres.
Agreed, man. I definitely agreed with that. I can't tell you how much horror really means to me because it's just like I was saying, I go to these cons, and just growing up, my childhood, like my brother, my wife's into horror, so it's just like something we do. I'll give you another example. For like Friday the 13th, me and my wife will watch that. We'll do a marathon of that for that weekend. Halloween, we'll do a marathon of that. And like when we watch horror movies, as far as like the franchises go, we'll start from the very first movie and watch that whole franchise. It won't be, okay, I want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street and then hop onto a whole different series. It's like, no, we're gonna watch this whole series. Even if it takes us a week, 2 weeks, we'll watch the whole series. And I just love that. I think it's just so fun. And like I said, again, it brings you back to your childhood when it comes to stuff like that. And it's very rewarding. You know?
It is. It's great. It's just really awesome art to see this on screen, to experience it. And unfortunately, today's events and stuff like that, now there are people out there that are trying to, they're expressing more of a criticism than the actual complaint about the recent types of films that's being made because they don't want to see a dead 15-year-old girl that got raped or whatever. They don't, especially if it's a horror film or whatever. They don't want to see, an elderly person being ripped to shreds by, let's say a demon clown or something like that. The fact is, it's a different scenario in life. I mean, life itself is filled with horrors. I don't understand why you complain about this, why you don't want it to be further promoted in reality. even though it's ongoing, no matter how you see it. So, there's no reason to protest on these types of films, horror or anything else that could potentially be a sensitive matter. But that's the point of this. It's supposed to make you feel unease. It's supposed to make you feel like you can't be safe, and that's the point of the whole thing. It's supposed to scare you, and it's supposed to be fun too in its own way. It's supposed to. There's so many things. It's supposed to show you that there's so many different types of stories out there of all these characters going through these kind of things, and it's like I said, the story it makes you immerse so much into these stories, and like so you mentioned Creepshow and stuff. I love the anthology type of storylines too. I think like what happened to this person and so forth. Like it's like you mentioned about the guy that says thanks for the ride, lady. It's like, dude, that's pretty scary on its own. Like never pick up hitchhikers. That's one it makes you learn lifelong lessons as well. Don't ever pick up a hitchhiker because you might come back to life.
That's very true with that. And yeah, you mentioned anthologies, man. I freaking love them. Like I want to find more anthologies because they're just. I didn't even. As a matter of fact, with the anthologies, I didn't even know the term until recently. I believe I heard the term on another podcast or whatever. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And then they said and I'm just like, holy shit! I was like, I've watched a few anthologies. Didn't even know what the hell. Didn't know I was watching an anthology. I thought it was just 3 different movies on one on one disc, and somehow they connect. But yeah, those are so great. And I feel like another huge thing with horror, especially nowadays, is you have a lot of the independent horror films, the independent indie horror filmmakers, and all that stuff. And I feel like it's one of the easiest. I'm not gonna. And this, I don't mean this in any disrespect, but I feel like it's the easiest genre to do an independent an independent movie for, because you can do it on a low budget versus like I'll say like a superhero movie, like similar to like a Marvel or DC movie, or a big action movie. You need those visual effects in your movie for it to work in a sense. With horror, you can literally use a mask from freaking the dollar store if you wanted to, and make it an entertaining horror movie. And I love how these independent horror filmmakers are just picking. I mean, they're doing really good. They're doing better than what I just described. I'm just using that as an example, but they're doing really good things. They have really good stories. The cinematography is great, and they're just. I love it, man. I just love that fact that you have so many more options of watching horror. And I've said this before. I got it from my brother Henry. Shout out to him, and I'll say it again. Or I forgot the exact words he said, but pretty much, independent horror is like the backbone of horror now. They come out with all the fresh ideas, and you have to start somewhere. And the indies where you're starting, some end up blowing up and getting to Hollywood. A lot don't, which either way, it's still great because they make some excellent movies. And I definitely feel like if you're a big fan of horror, even a casual fan of horror, you should definitely check these fan-made films out and these independent horror films out because they do a really, really, really good job on what they do with these movies.
Well, independent horror films or independent films as well. There's ups and downs with it. Okay, first of all, you get your vision out there a lot easier than to get an actual studio because you're more restrictive when it comes to another actual studio. But when you're by yourself, so to speak, have your own company, and it's not really big budgeted or anything like that, you can play with a lot of things and not worry about who's going to tell you otherwise, and having to get this vision out there. And it's great. I think it's a great showcase to display of the type of actors that you have on your film, in the horror or whatever genre. I think it's a fantastic way to really see what kind of things that these actors can do. What type of director can this person provide their vision toward the public and where it's going, and having to. There's so many positive things about independent. I know that to the larger companies, independent is kind of a dirty word in its own way because they don't want to take a risk on an independent filmmaker or independent film. And of course, it is all about risk, but they're more about saying, let's see if this is really going to pick up on whatever, depending on what it is. But when you're independent, you can pretty much free flow, pretty much have your own creativity and how to get it out there. But at the same time, it's going to be really rough. you might not get the backup support in terms of financial things. You might not get the backup support by doing this, because it's really going to take a lot of effort doing this. And even if your movie happens to be, you get it on DVD, you're going to wait a long time unless you get a deal with a distributor to get your disc out there. Otherwise, you're just going to end up streaming up on YouTube or stream up on other online sites. It's not a bad thing. If you really want to extend it out there, it's a lot of pushing involved with this. But it's not a bad thing at all. Independent films are making really good strides, especially horror films. There's so many interesting plots. And again, you don't have to like every one of them. I mean, there's some things that I gotta disagree with on certain aspects of things, but the fact is that they're still doing this, and they're still putting this out there. It's a test run. It's almost like a pilot. You know, you want to see where is it going to go. Like, and especially, hey, we're going to make a second film, and if you don't like the first film, we're going to fix what we didn't do in the first film and do it in this film. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of these guys that do that. In the horror genre, yeah, like you mentioned, it is a little bit easier in terms of performance. What I mean by performance, it's a little bit more to bring out in the dramatic aspect in terms of acting, to get that out there, to really see the real, real sheer terror, sheer of everything. And for the most part, I'm not saying all independent films display that entirely, but it does. It's a really good practice. It's really good. It's a good start in this genre for sure. And not only that, horror is a huge community, and it's definitely something to have fun with. But at the same time, when you're independent, you really need that extra oomph, that extra support. Or there's a lot of these guys are doing fundraisers and Kickstarters and stuff like that, just to gain that momentum, to get the money that they need just to make decent effects for anything that they're doing. And that's great. But at the same time, these guys are not getting the support that they need, and it's really rough. It's like I said, I bring it back to the music aspect in terms of the band. Here you're making a demo, right? And you're making a single, but then you post the single of, let's say, 3 tracks on the internet. Or let's say you do make a 7-track record, right? Okay, you put that up online, and you have it there for free for streaming. You don't charge or nothing. But guess what? You just gave away your entire disc. You just gave away basically the entire album that you're displaying, and you're not giving some leeway trying to put money back into that project so you can make better product.
I hear you there, man. And I think back to the independent thing, I think a really good thing that they do as far as when they do release their movies on YouTube, it's good because it's on there, but they do it for free or whatever, and it gets a lot of eyes on there. Like a good example was Never Hike Alone. That right there has, I don't know how many views it has as of right now, but it got a ton of views. And then at the same time, they're getting ready to make a second one. They're going to start another Kickstarter for the second one soon. And I wasn't lucky enough to back the first one, but I did get in there in time to get the Blu-ray, which was just awesome. And I'm the type, if I'm a fan of the movie, if I get to see it, I'll back it. If I don't get to see it, I'll back it. But I got the opportunity to see this movie, so I backed it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. And I'm like, you know what? I want this on Blu-ray. And, I was lucky enough to get the Blu-ray, and hopefully I can get a freaking Ghost Jason mask when they start making those again. I know they're way behind on that, though they have a lot of orders to do on that. But, yeah, man, I love horror in general. I'll watch any horror movie. I'll give any horror movie a chance at least once. If I like it, I like it. If I love it, I love it. If I don't, hey, it happens.
Well, yeah, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Even if it's a well-known franchise type of film, whether it's a franchise actual film from an actual known studio, or if it's a fan film, and that's you're entitled to every bit of your opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. And as long as be civil about it, express why you dislike it, and that's cool. It may not be your taste. It may not be your forte, so to speak, for this type of film, but other people may like it. And there's always other people that will love this film. And even if a film that gets really cheesy or maybe not as much dialogue or backup in the storyline, but has a good tone to it, you know, and having a good rhythm to it. And that's great. And that actually can formulate a sequel of the whole thing. That's great having to post your entire movie like that if you don't have the kind of money that you need, that you post it up on YouTube just to see how well this is going to go, which is great. It's great on its own on that part, having put that up on YouTube or their website like that to display that now it's the time to see what general interest of how much can generate, so you can focus on trying to make another film or something related to that.
Yeah. What was I going to ask you? I guess we can kind of dive into this movie a little bit. We don't have to go too crazy with it. We don't have to go too deep with it. But the Critters movie, Attack of the Critters. How did you feel about this movie?
Well, I was pretty excited, like, when I saw the trailers and stuff like that. Of course, that's kind of a given. Everyone does. But I was checking out, when I first saw the trailers, I was like, all right, that's cool. And then, introduced speaking of which, you guys haven't seen this movie, go watch it. Otherwise, I'm going to be telling you everything about this movie right here, right now, including the ending. I'm telling you right now.
Go ahead, man. Do it.
So, starting with what showed in the trailer, okay, they showed this female critter, and I was like, okay, that's a new element. That's something I've not seen in the previous critter films. And keep in mind, I grew up with critters, man. I really did. And I loved it. I think they're so awesome. The critters themselves, I love the animatronics, the actual practical effects of them. Fantastic. They look creepy. They look like they can tear your face off, which they do. And I love their communication, their language and stuff as these little aliens. And it's really fun. It's like Gremlins, man. Those are such two best fun films ever in terms of animatronics and stuff like that, in my opinion. But back to this movie. So I finally wait on the Blu-ray, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. I can't wait to see this. And Dee Wallace, of course, is in this movie, and very sweet person and very awesome actress. That God, man, and she has not failed once, to me, in my opinion, on all their films in terms of horror as well. But in this film, she's a badass. So she's got this big old gun, and she just blasts the crap out of these critters. But in terms of the story, honestly, it seems like they're setting up for a possible sequel, maybe a TV series for this film, because it wasn't what I expected it to be in terms of, the hype about it. I was actually a little disappointed into it, and because, first of all, like I said, Dee Wallace is great. That's one of the big positive aspects. Dee Wallace is back, the character's back, but not much to the character that she brought from that in this film that I would have liked to see extenuate in this film, as far as her part goes, or the character goes. But the story with this is, of course, critters come back, they land on Earth, they breed, they eat, they kill, and so forth, just like if you have seen critters, then you know what I'm talking about. And to me, it just seems like they just want to make it because they really like critters, and that's not really wrong. But I feel that there's a lack of story in this movie. Either they're setting up for a sequel or TV series for this, or it's just a really severe, in my opinion, severe lack of story to it. Because I was hoping for bounty hunters to be in this movie. I really was. I was so hoping Charlie would come back. I was so hoping I think there should have been more action sequences in the story. And to me, we follow the critters, which is great, which is more than what we were used to in the other critters. That's great. We see how they, eat and breed and stuff like that. But at the same time, I just feel like we're not getting enough out of this. We're not getting enough action sequences between the critters, the humans, and yes, the Queen, I guess, which Dee Wallace's character, Aunt Dee, in this movie, she says, that she's basically the Queen, which is not really fully explained in the movie at all. We just know it's a female critter, and these kids find her, which the kids are the main involvement in this film. But to me, I'm as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, what's this female critters, Bianca, that's what they called her. I'm like, what is Bianca's real purpose in this film? What is she catered to these critters. And, in my opinion, they kind of missed the mark with this critter because we don't see her do much of anything except off screen. Meaning that, okay, we see the fact that she really tore up this critter in the house that they were, after they fixed her head with the iodine stuff. And man, it's funny though. But we see that she's a brutal little thing. But like later on in the movie, like come to the end, we don't see her do much of anything but sit there, but to look cute. And I'm like, I was disappointed in that. I'm like, why didn't we have more action sequences of her just ripping the crap out of these critters? Why were these critters so focused on the kids? I mean, I understand they focus on the kids. They want to eat them. They want to, that's what they do. But at the same time, these critters know and smell and feel where the queen, Bianca, the critter was at. It's not like they didn't know where she was at. Why did they attack her? That was my question about that. It's like why didn't the queen one? Why didn't she go after her? If Dee Wallace's character says in the movie that she was there, that Bianca was there to protect, keep the critters from taking over the world or whatever. And I feel that she really didn't do much at all. She just sat there in a room and just looked cute. And she was capable of beating the crap out of these critters, but there was no battle sequence. There was no real battle sequence between Dee Wallace's character and the critters. We just saw her. She brought up a big gun and shot this big rolling ball of critters, and that's it. Shot a couple of them, and that's it. And she just, I think it lacked in terms of where this, more characterization and more of the story action sequences the most. That's where I was mostly disappointed in. Is there should have been more action sequences in terms of between the battle of critters, Dee Wallace's character, and Bianca, the so-called queen critter, because that was pretty cool. In my opinion, I thought that was the focus of the movie, which I felt that it wasn't the focus of the movie, unfortunately. It was just these kids, they find the critters and so forth, and, they terrorize, they run around to this college campus, and, it's just, I think, in my opinion, story-wise, to me, it kind of lacked a little bit. I think they could have stretched a little bit further in terms of action sequences the most. And also to point out that critters are known, and they really are in a jam. They will shoot out their talons or spikes or whatever you want to call it from their actual bodies, and it penetrates the person. And that it's supposed to poison the person and knock them out, which is dedicated in the earlier sequel of where Dee Wallace's character gets hit one of these and so forth. And they get poisoned. They're supposed to be knocked out, or at least weak enough to the point where the critter can actually just pounce on them and eat the crap out of them. But the problem is, in this movie, it doesn't display that. Sure, they use the talons. Sure, it penetrates the person's body. But then they act like it's like apparently nothing happens. I mean, I understand these are baby critters in a way. They're full grown. They're pretty mean. But at the same time, I thought that was the purpose of that. I mean, especially the main critter, the leader. I mean, he's full grown. He's an adult. How is this not affecting these characters? Like he shoots two of them out, especially the younger boy of the brother. Shoots in his neck. I mean, this thing is like almost looks like an 8-foot-long freaking talon sticking out of his neck, man. How is that not affecting him at all? And it's like, no biggie. And I will say, on a positive thing, definitely positive would be plenty of gore. Love the gore. I love the animatronics, the practical effects. Even the makers of the film said that if it was CGI, they would, chances are fans wouldn't like it as much. And I would also agree with them on that. I probably wouldn't like this as much. I still like this film. I do like the critters. They look really cool, and I always enjoy watching the critters. I love how they move and communicate, and I love the big rolling ball of critters. That's like the really coolest thing that they do. And but I think there should have been more communication with the critters, in my opinion, as well. I think they should have, like the leader should have had, or at least have like at least 3 scenes of these other critters having a little conversation, like in the early films, because that was so cute and funny, and it's comical too. And this film does bring comedy to it, and it's funny too. And that's just my opinion about. I think this, if anything, it should have more action sequences. It should have had at least one bounty hunter from the previous films, or at least a bounty hunter. I mean, Dee Wallace's character has like all this high tech stuff. Where is this all coming from? I mean, I would understand if this is a reboot or something, but like she's like the only person that has access to all this. What happened to everybody else?
I know. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the older Critter movies, but with this one, it's a fun movie in my opinion. But it seems, again, I don't know about the other ones, but this one seems kind of like rushed. Like they didn't really develop a story for this one. It's fun. Like I said, the cinematography is great. I like the way the critters look. The critters look awesome. But like you're saying with the Queen one, like there's not really a purpose or story or anything about it. I feel there should have been at least a small background about her. You know what I mean? Like I know the one lady finds out that she's trying to protect the world, this, that, and the third. But it's like there should have been some sort of a small background of just that in general. And I don't know. It just it did have its funny parts. Like oh damn, what the hell was the guy's name? Who was gonna run and get the keys? He's like, I'll be back in like 2 minutes and 37 seconds, and the ball of critters gets him. just little things like that.
Why does the dude like have no shirt like all of a sudden? Like, I'd rather not see some like shirtless guy running around, but I do appreciate he got smashed by the random ball though. That was pretty funny.
And it's I mean, I know you need those for a movie like this. You need those kind of silly parts in it, and it works for it. But it's just, I don't know, man. Again, they did good with the look of the movie. I kind of wish, I like that it has the silliness to it, but I kind of wish it still had a little bit of a more darker tone to it. And as far as the Queen one goes, I get they had to make her stand out and look different. I wish they would have made her look a little scarier, though. Just a little creepy.
Yeah, I agree there, too. She looks too much like a Pretty in Pink type of a Furby type of deal.
I was thinking the same thing, man.
She's vicious, but unfortunately, we don't get to really see that viciousness. We just see that offspring. We see the aftermath of what she did. I'm like, I want to see what she's capable of, man. I want to see, does she have a different ability compared to these other critters?
Yeah.
And I got a feeling that she does, but we never got a chance to really see it. We never experienced it. Like, can she extend her mouth like 5 times bigger than the critters and actually swallow an entire, like an animated object, unnormally than what we would see any other critter would do.
Yeah. But I mean,
she's got a lot of sharp teeth, man. I mean, and like I said, back to the language. I don't know if you're not familiar with like the first critters, at least. The language, I think, is important too. I mean, it's funny. It's so funny and cute, and you can tell that these have their own like. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. And then like one gets fired by a shotgun, and the other one's like, oh, huh. It's great.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's a fun movie. I'm gonna have to go back and revisit the old ones, the originals, and see how I feel about those. I might even like them more than this one, but you want to let's jump into movie ratings. I try to do like little fun things with the movie ratings. On a scale of 1 to 10 critters, how many critters would you give this movie?
Yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 10, Bob.
5?
5 out of 10, because, like I said, I think it lacked on characterization storyline because, like I said, Dee Wallace just comes in, follows the critters, gets her big gun, blows like 2 or 3 away. Whoop, that's it. Okay. And,
yeah.
You expect her to do a lot more in this. And, like, the female critter, unfortunately, that missed it, man. I thought, I can understand. I can totally understand if this is a setup for a sequel or something, or maybe something bigger for this entity. But I thought, they should have displayed it, what this critter can do. And honestly, I didn't feel any of that. I just felt that half the time she just sat in one spot. Half the time she just sat there looking cute and everything and nothing else. And, even at the end, she's sitting there. I mean, we see a bunch of bodies. Okay, that would have been great if we saw what she did, Well, of course, we get the idea of what she did, but it would have been nice to see the action sequence just tear these little critters up. And we do see her throw a talon at another critter, saving Dee Wallace's character. Like, okay, well, I could have saw a little bit more than that. So, yes, I think it should have more action sequences. I think it seems like this film was basically solely based on the fact that they really enjoyed critters, like the previous films. And it does feel like a short film, like an actual short film. And even the time frame of the movie feels very short. It basically, if you were to watch this movie and you have to watch the movie, you can actually sum this movie up in probably like 10 minutes, literally.
Yeah, it was. That is one thing I did notice about this film is it was pretty quick. Like it was a short film. Fun film. Like I said, overall fun. I would probably give it maybe 3 critters. This is one of those movies I probably have to rewatch and also go back and watch the originals and see how well it holds up, in my opinion, with it, and like see how much I actually like it from then, and maybe my rating will go up, maybe it won't. But yeah, overall, fun movie. I'm gonna rewatch it, so yes, I would rewatch it. And I'm one of those people. I always say if I like a movie or not. I would say check it out for yourself. You could have a different opinion than I do, which is great. You might love the movie, you might hate the movie, which either way is great. But yeah, man, is this a movie that you would recommend for others to watch? And would you rewatch this movie?
I definitely would recommend people to watch, and yes, I've actually watched it before we got on here. It's definitely a rewatchable movie. It does provide some entertainment, and unless you're the type that wants to compare from the earlier Critter films to this film, no, it really shouldn't really be doing a tremendous amount of comparing. But in terms of like the aspect of what they are and stuff, then sure. But I think, yeah, definitely a rewatchable film. It's not boring. It's not really. It's not a bad film. I just felt that this is. I agree. It does feel pretty rushed. It just came out of nowhere. It's like, okay, trailer, and all of a sudden, hey, it's on Blu-ray now. So what? It's like already. It's like. So yeah. So it's definitely one of those films. It's a weekend movie. It's what I call it. You can just go rent it, check it out. And, especially if you're a first-timer and seeing what critters are, then that may be a positive thing, too. They're like, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then you go back and watch the early sequels that leading up to 4 and whatnot. And, yeah, it's a fun movie to watch as well. It's just that, there's some red flags, but, I mean, you could like it. You could think it's the greatest movie. But, yeah, it's a rewatchable movie. It's got, some fun. And I will say the kid actors did very well in this movie too. I was surprised at the reactions of how certain things. I mean, there was like maybe 1 or 2 moments that so they could have done a little. The kid could have been a little bit more scared or more hurt type of mentality. But pretty much, it's definitely a rewatchable movie.
I agree with you on all that. And yes, the kids really did do a good job with this movie, which it's one of those things I wouldn't mind seeing them in other things to see what else they can do. If they make a sequel out of this or make a series out of it, keep them in it. And it's cool to see these child actors in these type of movies, these type of horror movies. That's something I really do enjoy. And I like them getting big roles if it fits. Like for this movie, it fit.
Now, yeah, I agree with that too. But it's like with child actors, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that they didn't just throw in some well-known, heavy hitter type actors that we've seen in half a dozen films. Like to me, if they were to do that, aside from Dee Wallace, because Dee Wallace was a part of this saga to begin with, which is great. So that's not part of this. But yeah. Let's say that they put a well-known. A couple actors in there. It's like, let's say they stuck like Bruce Willis or something in there, then it wouldn't feel like a Critters movie. It just feel like you're trying to market it off as trying to get more sales and stuff like that. But I'm glad that because the kids, I'm not familiar with their work. I've not really seen these actors in films or at least in trailers from what I've come across. So yeah, it's a nice aspect of seeing these child actors. How they experience things, and sometimes some of these kids actually stated that they were terrified of these critters because they're animatronic and practical effect type of deal. And, that kind of mentality is like, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, with the child actors and other actors in this movie, I like the fact they're not exactly, at least to me, I'm not familiar with their work. So I think that's great. That's also a positive thing about this movie, too. It's like, you can check out the rest of their work, what else they're going to be involved in. So that I think it also helps them out as well.
I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. Now, are you? What did you feel? I'm not even going to get into like a discussion of it or a breakdown of it. Really, I just want to get your opinion on. But what did you feel about Stranger Things season 3, or did you watch it?
I'm normally open to everything, man. So that's another thing. With seasons, it's usually an up and down type of moment because I'm all about characterization. I'm always following, where the characters are going to go. Or, sometimes they do slim down. Sometimes it becomes stale. But I'm usually open to anything. And so far, so good, in my opinion. I don't have anything like really tremendously negative to say. As long as they keep the characterization interesting in its own way, like where the characters are going, or if they're going to have to kill them off, okay, then it's got to be a bigger impact of how they got killed or where they're going and so forth.
Yeah, because I know they're doing one more season. They say they're doing season 4 is supposed to be the last season. And me personally, I enjoyed, like some people say season 2 fell off. It wasn't that great of a season. I enjoyed all 3 seasons. It's something I'll have to go again. It's something I have to go back and revisit because I haven't seen season 2 since season 2 came out. So one of these days, I'm gonna. Actually, my wife and I were gonna watch all 3 seasons. Right now we're in. Right now we're watching American Horror Story. We just started that over yesterday. I only watched like the very first season full through, and I believe like Roanoke full through. The rest of the seasons, I didn't watch every single one of them, but I watched like bits and pieces of a few of them. But now we're gonna start from that one and just go through it because I know they're doing an 8th season, which is a slasher season, which I'm excited for. Which I'm not gonna like watch all these up just to watch the slasher. I'm gonna watch the slasher as I'm going through the series, which I believe it's out in a month, if I'm not mistaken. Now, are you a fan of that?
American Horror Story. When it first started, I did, and then when I didn't have actual cable and stuff, I don't have cable or nothing like that, so I don't really have access specifically to watch the rest of the season unless it comes out on DVD, of course, which I have not. I had a huge fallout from the season. I saw the earlier season, but that's as far as I went, unfortunately. But I have seen like bits and pieces on the internet from what I can see, but not to a point where I can understand what was going on. So I'd have to actually go all the way back to see it. So it's really hard for me to stay on these seasons because it sucks because I always miss them, especially like The Walking Dead. Yes, I know everybody. The Walking Dead has had a lot of ups and downs. A lot of downs from a lot of people are talking about, but I love The Walking Dead because I love where these characters are going, where how they're going to like treat a situation. Like there's a lot of very, very difficult decisions in The Walking Dead, and I wasn't really, other people are like, oh, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe he killed off. I was like, well, also I agree with some of the people that they're talking about The Walking Dead, but at the same time, it's like it's about characterization and where what this person is going to be doing next. Are they going to turn rogue? Are they going to just be straight evil? Or are they just like what are they going to do next? I mean, it's zombie apocalypse, and you think it couldn't possibly get any worse than that than having to battle humans too, and all those other aspects of things. But like with that, like I love, as you can tell, I love The Walking Dead. I still do. But I'm like 2 seasons behind on that, unfortunately, because like I said, I have no access to that, so I can't actually just watch it, and I don't have actual real internet, so I can't just go out and get it. But from what I've seen and characters, in the latest ones, it looks pretty impactful. But my opinion is with that, at some point it's going to have to end, man. It's the same thing with all these other ones. You can't just keep dragging it on and dragging it on and dragging it on. It's just going to get so boring. It's same thing with Stranger Things, same thing with American Horror Story. I mean, with American Horror Story, you can still play with that one. You can still keep going with that one a little bit longer
definitely.
without having to make it, seem pretty pretty dull or pretty repetitive. That's my opinion on that. But like the Walking Dead type of stuff, or Fear of the Walking Dead, honestly, those are the types that I think. I think either focus on Fear of the Walking Dead and end the Walking Dead, or figure an actual more extensive plot for one of the other characters. Otherwise, because half of them are getting killed off anyway, and then half these actors are already leaving from the main cast in that show anyway. So really, this is the best time to do it instead of continuing to stretch it further. But again, it's about the network thing. They like it, they're going to keep going, despite on ratings of how low it is.
Yeah, man. See, Walking Dead, I lost interest in that maybe around season 4 or 5. I do see why a lot of people still like it and still watch it. A lot of people just want to see what happens, how it ends, and all that good stuff, which I get that. I respect that. American Horror Story, again, I didn't get to really watch every single season. So I'm doing that now. First season, though, I remember loving that season. And I'm just so excited about all this horror we have on the horizon. I'm so excited about all the new horror stuff that comes out, all the fans with their movies, the fan made films, and I'm glad it's finally getting the respect it deserves. And I guess we can end it on then. I really, really appreciate you coming on this show. We're gonna have to do it again sometime. And thanks again for coming on. Is there any shout outs you want to do or any plugs you want to do before we wrap it up?
Not exactly. I mean, you can go check out my show called The Movie Raid, and I'm on Facebook as well. And you can just type my name in there as well if you like, whichever you want. Like I said, I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, The Movie Raid, and talk it all in one word. You'll see my logo. And if you like what you hear, just subscribe and go from there. And I'm also on Vimeo. I don't have all my interviews up there yet. I still got to pick like a day because there's like over 120 interviews I got.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
Like get them all up there. But there's only a couple on Vimeo, unfortunately. But I'm periodically adding one or two up there as I go. But all the interviews are up on YouTube. And big shout out to Caroline DeGrave, awesome lady, great actress, and she's doing. I'm just shouting this out because she's been supporting both shows. So. And she's producer and actor in a movie called The Butcher with Michael Mostatos. I'm sorry if I screwed up your last name, buddy. Both of them have been on my show. Really great people. And so check out The Butcher. Check out Caroline DeGrave. So yeah, that's my shout out for that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And just don't go any. Like I'm gonna wrap it up real quick. I'm gonna do my outro, but don't just stay put though for just a couple more minutes of your time.
I got all day, man. I don't have to work till tonight.
All right, man. But yeah, so again, I just want to thank you for coming on. And then to all my listeners, definitely go check out his interviews on the Movie Raid on YouTube. I did post it in the group. I tagged him and posted it in the group that we were recording. So definitely check out his YouTube page. He has some awesome interviews. And he said he has a lot more to put up there. As you know, I'm on, I'll tell you my networks really quick. You know what networks I'm on if you listen to me, but somehow, if you forgot, Horror with Sir Sturdy. I'm on iHeartRadio. I'm on Podbean, iTunes, Acast, Stitcher, Radio Republic, Player FM, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, and any other platform you can listen to podcasts on. You can check me out on Twitch when I get on there. It's horror_with_Sir_Sturdy. My PSN, if you're a gamer, which I gotta update my thing again. The PlayStation card again. But Sir_Sturdy, my Facebook page and my Facebook group are both Horror with Sir Sturdy. The Facebook group, feel free to promote anything horror related, post anything horror related. That's for the Facebook group. The Facebook page is more for my podcast. I do want you guys to like that though, but that's more for like my podcast, my announcements, videos, this, that, and the third. So please check that out. And yeah, man, just keep listening to horror, keep supporting horror. Watch all these indie horror films. Check them all out. And on that note, I'm going to end it. And as always, I'll see you in your night.